the real impact of doing a lender calculation for a mortgage and how much you can borrow by yourself. Of course, if you're looking to get a mortgage and want to know how much you can borrow, please speak with a mortgage broker. They'll go through your income, your expenditure, your circumstances, your credit history, and give you a clear idea of what you can borrow for a mortgage and what your monthly repayments could possibly be. So sometimes when we speak to a new client, they'll often come to us with an idea of what they can borrow. And then sometimes what can happen when I go through their income and the makeup of that income, so it might be overtime, bonus, commission, etc. Look at their expenditure, might be maintenance, student loans, credit card payments, things like that. Sometimes I can go back to them with actually a different amount of what they can borrow. So I'm always conscious of speaking to someone who thinks they've got an idea of what they can borrow without actually having spoken to a mortgage broker first. Let me give you an example. Now, one of the most common issues when it comes to borrowing is things like overtime, bonus, commission. Sometimes what a client will do is enter this amount into their basic annual income, when actually what needs to happen is your basic annual income be entered separate into a calculator, then commission, bonus, overtime in the right allocated places on a lender calculator. So what I'm looking at here is lender criteria. Got overtime fluctuating. So Accord will accept 60%, Aldermore 100%, 50% Bank of Ireland, 50% Barclays, unless you have a P60, then they can take 100%. But what you can see here is the fact that the vast majority of lenders will accept things like overtime, bonus, commission, whether they take 100%, 60% or 50%. You can use it when it comes to your borrowing, but you really need to be making sure that you enter it in the right place on a mortgage calculator if you do it by yourself. Okay, so what I've got here is a lender calculator. This case, it's TSB. So I've entered most of this already. So first time buyer looking to buy in England. Now in this scenario, the applicant has 30,000 basic annual income, 20,000 in overtime. However, they've entered it all together and it looks like they have £50,000 income. I've got a mortgage term of 35 years, 90% loan to value. Calculator tells me you could potentially borrow £224,500. What happens if you put the income in the right way? So we know 30,000 for the basic annual income and 20,000 for the overtime. Drops to £188,580. A significant drop because the income was not entered in the right place to begin with. Now, not every lender is going to be this way. Some lenders, like Halifax, for example, if it's regular, same amount of overtime or commission, whatever it might be, will give you the same borrowing figure. Other lenders, though, in this case like TSB, will give you a different figure. So it's really important you're talking to your broker. They have a full idea of the makeup of your income to give you the borrowing amount that you need for your mortgage. Something else to consider when it comes to borrowing for your mortgage is making sure that you enter your credit commitments, including student loans, childcare costs, nursery fees, things like that. Sometimes they can often be forgotten about when it comes to checking what you can borrow for a mortgage. So let's go back to TSB Calculator. So remember, we could borrow £188,580, income 30,000 basic, 20,000 overtime. Now let's look at what happens when we put in some credit commitments. So loan payments could be student loans, unsecured payments for a car, something like that. Let's go £300. Let's put in a few £1,000s for credit cards. And how does that impact things? So it brings it down to £175,800. So quite a drop. So if you have credit commitments, it's massively important to make sure they're entered into the lender calculator. Also worth considering, other lenders can be more generous when it comes to borrowing with credit commitments, like NatWest. So again, talking to a mortgage broker, you're going to be able to maximize your borrowing if necessary. It's also massively important that you're checking the right lender for your circumstances. So if you have adverse credit, so you've got missed payments or defaults or CCJs, for example, then if you're looking at a lender on the high street, Halifax, NatWest, Nationwide, they're unlikely going to be able to accept you for a lengthy period of time. So if you get a figure from them, it's possibly going to be worth nothing. You really need to be checking a lender that's going to be able to work with you and give you an accurate figure when it comes to your borrowing. So if you have adverse credit, you need to be checking lenders like Aldermore, Precise, Bluestone. But again, they all have individual criteria when it comes to adverse credit. So if you're unsure who to look at, you need to be getting an up-to-date credit report checked by a broker to go through and let you know exactly what options are available to you. Then you'll be able to get an idea of what you can borrow for a mortgage. So whilst you can absolutely check with a lender what you could potentially borrow for a mortgage, it's really worth checking with a broker. Not only will they be able to check more lenders, make sure the lender is suitable for your needs and circumstances, they'll also be making sure that the income is broken down properly onto the calculator, including any dependents, including any credit commitments. If you've got adverse credit, making sure they're checking a suitable lender. There's a whole raft of things to consider when it comes to borrowing on a mortgage. It might seem straightforward on the surface just to go, I'll check lender A, I'll check bank B. You might go, okay, this is who I bank with, that's who I'll check first. But they might not, for one, be suitable for you. They might not give you what you need when it comes to lending. Your circumstances, your credit history, you just might not be approved by them. So, before you check what you can borrow for a mortgage, please speak with a broker. Get an idea of what you can borrow before looking to buy. If you're unsure what you can borrow for a mortgage, comment below and I'm more than happy to walk it through with you.